Hello everybody, welcome to ADRA Today. I'm Iris Argueta.
And I'm Ruben Covarrubias. Today's program will take you inside our Ukraine response.
That's right, we'll talk to ADRA experts who were on the front lines of our humanitarian relief efforts.
And we'll also introduce you to several refugee families who were helped by the thousands of ADRA staff, volunteers, and church members who were there to support them and give them hope in a time of crisis.
And show you how the global church community stepped up to support the people of Ukraine through their prayers, contributions, and volunteer efforts.
Did you know that ADRA has been serving the most disadvantaged communities in Ukraine for the past 30 years?
That's right. Before the war, our ADRA office in Ukraine had been working on several programs, including food assistance and rebuilding projects. And that's why they were monitoring the situation before the conflict began.
In our next segment, ADRA International's Emergency Response Coordinator, Mario Olivada, explains how it was possible for ADRA to mobilize within hours to respond to this crisis. Let's take a look.
A war is always a lot of suffering, physical, emotional, mental. So since the beginning of the invasion, we immediately started to send people from around the world related with ADRA to assist and to support the offices. This emergency is a quite complex one because not only by the number of people that has been affected in such a short time, but also by the number of countries that are involved where there is refugees, IDPs, displaced people. So it's not only Ukraine, but it's also the surrounding countries. I believe that the reason why ADRA was able to respond so quickly was primarily because ADRA was already established in those countries. We were recognized, we had partnerships with church institutions, with governments, with other institutions, with the NGOs, with the United Nations, some cases. So ADRA was able to respond quickly because we were already in the ground. I mean, it was amazing the fact to see that some churches, especially near the border with Ukraine, they became literally refugee centers. The church was known, and we were using some facilities from the churches themselves, youth camps that were made available that we could have refugees sitting and staying in these facilities. ADRA International made available funds to Hope Channel Ukraine, and the fact that the Hope Channel in Ukraine was able to still have the same structure, they were able to respond quicker. This was something that definitely contributed for a success of our response in the first days inside the country of Ukraine. We evacuated over 10,000 people from Ukraine, from the eastern part to the west part, so from the regions that were mostly affected by the war for safer areas. The initial response was mainly with food, with some clothes. People were traveling very light because it was women and the children that were mainly traveling and fleeing the country. But as the operation go on, we started to focus more on the multi-purpose cash. And why are we providing money? Because the needs from one family are not the same for other families. One family might need some diapers, other family might need food, another might need medicines. The long-term objective is that the office in the country, they have capacity to respond. And this is where ADRA is helping them to have more staff, to increase their capacity, more accounting, more projects managers, more logisticians, more offices. An interesting aspect that we have had in this emergency was that we had other NGOs approaching ADRA asking to partner with us because we are already in the ground, we are already established. They see the volunteers with the vests, with the logo, so they say this is a partner that is already established and they want to partner with us. At this stage of the crisis, we are focusing more now on the long-term projects that we can have. We are upscaling our response, searching for institutional donors. We are using also our own funds, and we are also targeting areas that are not being so much helped by other organizations. I give you an example. In Moldova, Transnistria, which is in the border between Moldova and Ukraine, is an area where very few NGOs and even United Nations, they have access. In the following years, we will be supporting like education, like reconstruction, like mental health and psychosocial support. We are already working in some of these areas. So this close collaboration between the church institutions, the church volunteers and ADRA is definitely one major lesson learned from us in this emergency. It's important to support ADRA because we don't look only for the emergency, but we look on the long term. This specific crisis of Ukraine, I think it's very important to raise awareness of the work that we are doing because it shows that we are one family and it's a common house. What is happening in Ukraine, it's having repercussions here and everywhere around the world. It's important to know that we are a global village and we have to support abroad and inside also the country.
As you probably have seen, since the onset of the war on the 24th of February, millions of people have been forced to flee their homes and cross the border into neighboring countries along the western Ukrainian border, including Romania, Slovakia, Hungary, Moldova, and Poland.
But ADRA and the Adventist Church community welcome them with open arms.
I'm Sophia, I'm 17 years old. Before all this, I think I'm going to remember the day before the war started and the morning when my mom woke me up, because these memories will be stuck in my mind till the end, because it's very scary and very hard. Since September, I worked very hard to fulfill my dream of coming to Canada to study. I have great plans. I have everything planned. On morning 24th, my mom woke me up with words that we now have martial law because the war started, and that I'm not going to have school this day. I instantly got on my phone, read news. I saw that a lot of cities were under shelling and under bombs, and even parts of the western Ukraine, and that scared me a lot. We are very grateful that we found a place to stay, because while we were in a road to Poland, we didn't even know where we are going to stay, and we're very grateful that we have a place to sleep, we have food, we can even brush our teeth here, everything, more even than we expected. I want to say not only to my friends, just to all people, that starting wars is awful. It's the most awful thing that can ever happen in the whole world, because until you feel it on yourself, you don't understand. You know that war is bad, you've been taught this in school, everyone talks that war is bad, but until you understand it, that it really might happen with you, you don't understand how actually horrible it is. No war should be ever started, because it's just very horrible thing that can happen. I say no to war.
You know, Iris, this is a clear example of how this conflict has impacted children's lives, especially their education.
Yes, we have seen so many similar stories, but we are happy to report that Sophia has made it to Canada and she is pursuing her college education. When we come back, we'll have more on Ukraine.
We are ADRA, a global community of people helping people. Our work reaches women, children, and men in need, in communities big and small around the world, in challenging times and rewarding times. We serve humanity, so all may live as God intended, with justice, compassion, and love. Learn more about us and get involved. ADRA.
Welcome back. Thanks for joining us.
ADRA teams and volunteers worked 24 hours a day at refugee tents located at border crossings. Many of them came from different parts of the world to serve. They took time off from their jobs and left families. And many young people even worked after school, in some cases throughout the night, to help those in need. Let's take a closer look at the Ukraine-Romanian border.
Edward, where are you going?
To pass some sweets to the kids.
And this is what you do when you come here to volunteer?
Half of my action here.
What kind of things are you going to give the kids?
Juice, snacks, croissants.
It's kind of cold outside. Why are you doing this?
Because they need to eat even if they are cold.
Why do you like doing this volunteering thing?
To help these people.
Oh, come on. What's happening at the camp?
A lot of refugees.
What do you want to tell the kids that are going to watch this video? Students.
Send more help. And we need Ukrainians to speak with the refugees. You need people who speak Ukrainian to help us.
Why is it a problem? Tell me about that.
There are very few who know English.
There are many students in different parts of the world that stepped in to do their part for Ukraine. In the U.S., some students from Spencerville Academy raised funds for the children in Ukraine and even gave up their spring break to deliver the aid in person. Here's Elsa and Julia's story.
So we're here at the border near Ukraine, and the children coming in, and as they're coming in, we're giving them toys, and we realize that they're fleeing their homes without anything in their backpacks, nothing to distract them.
I've been going around with some other ADRA volunteers with some boxes of food, supplies, and snacks, and a lot of necessities, just going around and handing them to people, whatever they need. We saw spring break as the perfect opportunity to take time from school and to come here and help.
I had a lot of gum here and everyone really wanted it, and yeah.
And surprisingly, there was a lot of people who needed like tissues and wipes, which I think
socks.
and socks. I'm gonna go get more socks.
We were asking
socks.
for a lot of socks.
I'm gonna get the thicker ones.
I don't think the news really captures what's really going on here. But seeing these families firsthand, welcoming them to the ADRA shelter, and seeing how lost they were and how hurt and disoriented they were, and seeing these children, they have absolutely nothing. The minute I told my friends that I was doing this fundraising campaign, I had this idea for a fundraising campaign, they were so open to the idea, and they were also concerned about the things that were going on here. So they just jumped in, and together we started creating posters and flyers, and we were just brainstorming together. We created a PowerPoint presentation and presented it to our church, to our youth. We were able to get donations, church collections, and we've been spreading the word all over social media, talking to our friends or family. We've raised an estimate of about $2,000 or $3,000, and now we've been focusing on children, bringing them help and support and comfort with toys or hygienic products, blankets and sleeping bags, another big necessity here. We've also been trying to get contact and resources to these families so that when they come here to the border or over here at our shelter, they know where to go.
It made me feel very happy to know that I could help these people coming from Ukraine here in Romania. I was happy that I could help them in any way, even if it was just by giving them some snacks or some juice.
And user donations and be able to bring support to these people. As we saw, as we were passing around these boxes to these children and their families, the way they welcomed it with, these heartwarming smiles and beaming faces, it was not only satisfying, but it made us feel like we were making a difference. And it was just so heartwarming. And it broke my heart to see that these children, they have nothing. And whatever little thing that they can get, they're so grateful for it. And it really inspires you to do more and to help them in any way that you can. And so that's exactly what we're hoping to do.
So think about the people that don't have anything here and just give it or donate anything that you can just to help these people.
Now we want to bring you another story from Hungary, where a mom and her child traveled under bombs to flee to safety. Let's take a look.
We were on the way during 3 days because we have to go to hide in the evening. I clearly understand that this situation is not for kids. They don't have to live like that. In this situation, they don't have to see this. I wanted her to stay alive.
We have 4 shelters here. We need to provide continuous help for them. We need to keep the faith, keep this fire.
We found a warm place. Kids have toys, a little bit books, puzzles, pencils. They're happy. They think that it's an adventure, you understand? And this is more than we could dream of.
And now we need to show how this community, this network of the humanity, how strong is it?
We want to say thank you for assistance to ADRA. Thank you so much.
As we have seen, ADRA has mobilized dozens of humanitarian convoys for Ukraine and has provided passenger buses to rescue displaced families.
And we have heard of so many miracle stories of how people were saved in the midst of danger. ADRA's emergency response coordinator describes some incidents where God intervened.
It was in the first days of the war. There was a missile that fell in the yard of the church, a Seventh-day Adventist Church. At that moment, it was in Nikolaev, in the southern part of Ukraine. The church were with people inside. If this missile had exploded, the church would have disappeared and everyone inside the church will have been killed. So we clearly could see the hand of God protecting and helping these people, Adventists and non-Adventists that were inside the church. It comes to my mind another episode. It was in one of the churches. In one of the moments, ADRA was evacuating people, and there was like 182 people inside the church waiting to be evacuated. And when the bus arrived, the bus has a capacity of 75 people. The question was, how can we evacuate it? Who can we choose to be evacuated or not? I don't know how, but 182 people entered the bus and had been evacuated. And I could keep counting stories that I've been hearing from those working inside Ukraine, but we have seen a lot of miracles from God in this operation.
ADRA is grateful for all your support in this crisis. Our global church community has been amazing, and we have seen different activities where church members have launched efforts to raise donations for this emergency. And now ADRA's head of marketing and development, Jennifer Tyner, describes how the church in the U.S. has responded.
It has been an overwhelming response of compassion and generosity. The inquiry started, how can we help? What can we do? And from there, that weekend, even the community I live in Northern California, where there's a very large Ukrainian population, also churches, Adventist churches there. And we went live from one of the churches. It was incredible to see the community come out to respond, not only to the world response, but our local church's response, wanting to help the Ukrainian families in that church to figure out where their families were, how they could help. And so made national news from our little town in Fair Oaks, California. But it has just been nonstop since then, with people's hearts have been so open to what is happening, both globally and in Europe, but also right here in the U.S.
What type of support have you seen? From where? What does it look like?
This has truly been a response, a multi-generational response. From there's been school children who have been raising money in their classrooms, writing to their local newspapers to educate them on the work that ADRA is doing for Ukrainians. But they've raised money. I've got these most adorable notes from grade school children, and my other hometown, which is just random coincidence, but in Fletcher, North Carolina, the Captain Gilmore School and Fletcher Academy raised over $18,000. These were children. Another group of kids in Maryland, near our offices, Spencerville Pathfinders held a rockathon where they raised money by spending all night rocking in rocking chairs to educate people about the commitment and how much about this cause. We've had universities respond. The universities of Southwestern Adventist University held a Ukrainian benefit concert, Loma Linda Church. There have been at least a dozen or more churches that have benefit concerts. We had a group of physicians who got together and donated their whole week of pay towards this. It's just, the generosity is mind-blowing. And I think it's in direct responses that many of us have just never seen a type of crisis like this.
So how can people continue to support the effort that ADRA is doing?
For people to stay engaged with ADRA, to learn about what's happening on a weekly basis. It changes quite a bit. There's still work being done. I know there are universities here and schools here in the U.S. are looking at ways to bring in the students displaced throughout the region who haven't been able to finish school. Kettering College is one that's working with a number of schools with the General Conference on taking some Ukrainian students here so they can finish school. They're looking at support for teachers. We would love to connect with you and make sure you hear about this, and also the other issues that are starting to impact other areas of the world. We look at over 100 disasters or crises a year.
How can they get more information so they can get going?
You could go to our website at adra.org or find us on Facebook or Instagram at ADRA International, and we monitor those comments and the messages. Please reach out and we will get back to you and get you involved.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
After several months, ADRA prepares for the next phase of the humanitarian response. And we want to take you to the Ukraine border, where Frank Raymond, our regional response coordinator, is leading the operation. Frank, thank you so much for joining us. You are the regional response coordinator for Ukraine, and we're so excited that you have a moment to talk to us. You are, just so the folks know, I mean, you're in your car in between the Ukraine border and Romania.
Well, thank you, first of all, for the opportunity to talk to you. And yes, I'm at the border here. We're going over to Satu Mare to pick up some more stuff at the airport. And it's actually a great privilege to be here and to be able to support the people in the Ukraine.
What are some of the challenges that you're facing right now?
So the most challenging things we are facing right now are related to supply chain issues. So fuel is a major issue. A lot of our projects involve transportation of goods and services and people. And so we need fuel for that. That's a major restriction. The other constraint is definitely, I think there is physical danger. There's a lot of psychological, obviously, impact for everybody who works here, especially for our Ukrainian colleagues who are all affected in some way or the other. The ADRA office itself is not working in its normal location. It's normally based in Kiev. The office has been as well moved to another part of the country. And another big challenge is the needs are just overwhelming. We have 20 million people who are in need of assistance, and it's impossible to help all of those.
Can you describe some of the specific projects that are and will make a difference?
We can probably group the projects in three main groups. So one is what we call humanitarian transport, and that is where we assist people to move from A to B. And that's usually it's people who are in or close to conflict areas and who would like to leave. And so we assist in that we are going there with our drivers and pick them up and bring them either to a safer place within Ukraine or even to the border for those who would like to leave. We are then as well supporting people with food distribution and non-food items, NFIs. And then the third area is that we are providing cash support. And that is usually for places where people are able to purchase their own things.
Even though we don't know what the future holds for Ukraine, are there any plans in the works to begin to reconstruct and rebuild?
Yes, absolutely, spot on. That's the next phase that we are looking at. It's obviously, as you can imagine, a difficult decision. At what stage and at what location does it make sense to rebuild? And the question there is obviously we don't know how this conflict is evolving, but we will definitely engage in the first activities to provide so-called temporary shelter. So that would be shelter for people who are not back in their home where they can live for that period of time.
How are you able to survive under the current conditions?
It varies across the country. As you probably all know from the news, the fighting is located in certain areas. They are moving and shifting. There's obviously always the risk that out of nowhere there is actually an attack, and so people would have to take shelter. So we are coordinating with other NGOs, with the UN, with the government of the Ukraine to ensure that we have good information to be prepared. We have daily briefings. We have logged that we observe any movements. And so for those staff who are working more at the front line, closer to the conflict areas, obviously we have very strong safety protocols to ensure that nothing will happen to them.
What would you tell folks about the importance of continuing to support this crisis?
I think needless to say that we continue to need financial support, and that is the basis for our activities, obviously. And there as well as a reminder, please don't send any goods or collect things. Send funds so that we can actually design projects that can leverage and where we can get the best possible support.
What would you want to share with the people that are watching us at this moment?
Please don't forget those people who are in the Ukraine who cannot leave and who are facing tremendous challenges. And there's individual families who are not sure about the future and who are not knowing what's going to happen next week or even tomorrow. And so please keep praying.
Frank, thank you so much. When we come back, we'll bring you the story of a medical student from Africa who was able to escape the war in Ukraine.
Stay with us. Don't go away.
It's not a job that's restricted to 9 to 5 at a desk. It's not necessarily comfortable work. As a humanitarian, you're on the clock when a disaster happens, and whether that means stepping outside of church to respond when there's been an earthquake, whether that means flying away from a family event to help out after a hurricane, or whether it means my colleagues in the field living through the event, living through the disaster. They still get up, they still go. More than a job, it's a calling. We are called to do what God will have us do to serve humanity, and it happens to be working for ADRA.
Welcome back. You know, Reuven, when I was at the Ukraine border, I learned of many medical students from Africa who were caught inside Ukraine in the middle of this conflict.
Wow, that must be, it was so overwhelming for these students because it just seems like they have no one they can contact or may feel like they have no one they can contact. I can't imagine how that was.
It was horrible in many cases because they were so far away from home. But luckily, they made it to Romania.
Fantastic.
My name is Tibogo Musakaba. I am a medical student of Sumy State University in Ukraine, and I'm in my final year. I was part of the people who were rescued from Sumy during the war, during the first few weeks of the war. And to say the least, it has been quite an experience. When we were there, when the rumors of the war started, we initially did not believe that any of this was going to happen. We thought that it was going to just fizzle out within a few days, everything was done. Little did we know that it was going to be a catastrophe that it has become today. As I speak, I remember of the times when myself and my friends, who were also students of Sumy State University, who live in the same campus, in the same hostels, who were still trying to figure out, having talks of what to do. And when the president announced that the country is going under martial law and people should prepare to stock up food for the coming few weeks, we were stunned. I remember laughing about it with my friends because we did not believe it. We started hearing of other cities being attacked, people dying, and even in our own city, our military base was attacked. That's when reality started kicking in, that we have to leave. But how can we leave? We were surrounded. Our railway station was not working. All our roads leading out of the city were blocked. We were really stuck. We didn't know what to do. We tried looking for drivers who would take us. No one would take us. No one would risk their lives. And those who managed to leave were being charged ridiculous prices, up to $1,000 per person, which most people could not afford because we are just students. We don't work. We really didn't know what to do. Our parents were stressed. We were stressed. Other people were crying. Other people, it was just pandemonium. However, when the humanitarian borders were finally opened, we were evacuated from Sumy by a large convoy. It was a very long journey. We did not face any difficulties. We were not attacked on the way. We arrived safely, contrary to what we had been told, that when you get to the railway stations, you have to fight for your way in, and even if you are an African male, you also have to give preference to females because that's the rule that has been set. But for us, nothing like that ever happened. As soon as we arrived, we found a train just ready for us. Didn't even have to struggle. We traveled for the next 2 days and we arrived at the border to Romania. When we crossed the Romanian border at Siret, I remember the feeling of relief that I had. It was 5 o'clock in the morning, it was cold, it was dark. But the first thing that I saw when I was on the Romanian side is a green banner which was written ADRA, and at the back of my mind I knew those are my people. Of course, I'm Adventist and I know what ADRA stands for and what it does. So knowing that that banner was there for me or for somebody like me, it brought me so much comfort. So in looking back right now, as I reflect, I can only see the goodness of God. And we went back to our various places at home. I am at home in my home country in Zimbabwe, actually taking my final exams and waiting to graduate in the next few weeks. So despite the circumstances that I've been through, God is still faithful and He has kept me alive. And what I would like to say to the people who are listening, to the people who are watching this, to the people who are going through the most difficult of times is always trust God. I am excited at the prospect of getting my diploma, getting my degree, and furthering on my career into becoming a physician who is certified in obs and gynecology. And to the people who helped, I would like to say thank you very much. Thank you for all your support. Thank you for all your prayers. Thank you for everything. I cannot capitalize the word thank you enough. May God bless you for all the efforts that you have put into this.
And Musa is getting ready to take her exams, and hopefully she will continue with her internship
Absolutely.
at a possible hospital. Maybe somebody's watching and we'll give her a call. Good luck, Musa.
This has been a labor of love and compassion, and it has impacted millions of people. And we want to thank you for your support in the work that we do. We have a special message from our president, Michael Kruger, to thank you.
Hello, friends. I am Michael Kruger, president of ADRA International. On behalf of ADRA, I want to express our heartfelt appreciation to all donors, churches, communities, and trusted partners for the tremendous outpouring of generosity in support of ADRA's Ukraine response. Since the first day of conflict on February 24, ADRA has been on the ground, providing life-saving aid to families and children both in Ukraine and outside of its borders. It has been serving the region's most disadvantaged communities for the past 30 years. The armed violence has triggered a great demand for humanitarian aid. ADRA is grateful for our Adventist Church family and thousands of volunteers for their unwavering commitment and contributions. We have partnered with churches all over Europe to welcome refugee families and children who have crossed into neighboring countries and beyond. Almost every day, our ADRA staff and volunteers assist moms who flee the shelling with their young children with only seconds to spare before their villages are destroyed. Many people traveled for days with nothing but the clothes on their backs, such as Olina, who arrived at the ADRA Refugee Center in Siret, Romania, after going a week without formula or diapers for her baby. Church volunteers collaborate with ADRA staff 24 hours a day to support moms like Olina, to provide cash assistance, hot meals, counseling, shelter, and other essential services at border crossings, churches, schools, and other facilities. Your contributions make a difference and will significantly impact ADRA's ability to carry out its mission of providing vulnerable families and children with long-term services such as education, healthcare, job placement, and access to housing in communities across Europe. As the global humanitarian agency of the Adventist Church, ADRA reaffirms its commitment to serve, protect, and advocate for the people of Ukraine and all communities affected by this never-ending crisis. We appreciate your generosity and can't thank you enough for putting your trust in ADRA to bring love and compassion to the people of Ukraine. Please continue to pray for the millions of victims of this massive crisis and the safety of the thousands of ADRA workers and volunteers who are leading this critical mission. Once again, sincerest gratitude for your generous support. We are and will always be grateful.
ADRA will be in Ukraine for many years to come. This is only the first few phases of the operation, and we are responding in different parts of the world in other crises. So keep us in your prayers.
And if you want to learn more about what we're doing or get involved, please visit our website, adra.org. There you can learn more about the various projects that are in the world and how you can contribute as well. You can also follow us on our social media pages on Facebook and on Instagram, where you can see photos, videos, and just updates of the various projects that we're working on, not only in Ukraine, but different parts of the world.
So thank you for watching us, and we'll leave you with a special music video that highlights the many lives that were impacted by this monumental emergency.
Dar trece un samaritian, sigur că îl va ajuta. Îl va sui pe-al său asin și acasă îl va lua. În casa tatălui, locașul mult găsit. Iisus pentru toți copiii are loc în cerul sfânt. În casa Tatălui, locașuri multe sunt. Iisus pentru toți copiii are loc în cer.